went to three different schools, three different special schools, and all three were not really appropriate for him, especially the first two, because he wanted to interact with children, and the children in both schools were mostly nonverbal. In fact, in one of the schools, now the funny thing was that, so Moise had this habit of cracking jokes. He would find jokes in books or baby jokes that he had heard somewhere, and he would love to repeat them. And of course, I used to find them very funny, and in fact, the rest of the family as well. We would all, every time, he would crack the joke, we would laugh in an exaggerated way to sort of make him happy and encourage him, um, and that gave him a lot of joy. But one day he came back from this particular school, and he says that um, they've told me to stop telling jokes. I was like, why would they do that? This is his way of communicating, of reaching out, of wanting to connect with people. And I spoke to the teachers, and they said, well, it's inappropriate. He should not be cracking jokes in the school. And he also has a tendency to, as he's walking past, to maybe touch a student as he's going by or something like that. And I was like, yeah, why do you think he's doing that? He wants to connect to the other children. He wants to socialize with the other children, and this is the way he knows how. And this one avenue that he has, you want him to just stop doing that. And I actually found this part of his personality very endearing. I think it was magnificent that he wanted to crack jokes. And anyway, this struggle continued till we moved out of Singapore and even beyond. But more of that later. On the other hand, the lying down behaviors, as I mentioned, they had become, they were still there, and they had become more and more appropriate as he had grown older, because he was stimulating his private parts by lying down, and obviously there were consequences. And this was happening in public places like the park behind our house. And this really was something that Usman and I, we kind of struggled to deal with. So I thought, okay, let's take Moise to a counselor. Now, it's a different stage of life, and he needs someone different. So prior to this, we had done all the autism-specific therapies with him, which was, usual ABA, the TEACH, and speech therapy, OT, and all of that. But he'd never really seen a counselor. And now he was like, I think in his early teens. And that counselor, he basically did talk therapy with Moise, and he's the one who recommended that we give Moise something called private time for behaviors like where he could get, where he could just sort of maybe lie down in a private area and deal with the consequences of that stimulation to his private parts. I don't want to be very explicit, but I think you can understand what I'm saying. And so we had to be very, very explicit with Mo and explain to him exactly what was happening and why it couldn't be, it was inappropriate for it to happen in public. And honestly, I'm not sure how much of it he understood, but he did realize, or he did know, that certain behaviors were and were not acceptable to us. Now, whether they made sense to him or not, I can't be sure. But over time, and I must emphasize, it took time. It's not something that clicked in one day and the matter was resolved. Over time, he began to adhere to the private time sort of rituals, and the issue was we found a resolution to the problem. So that was a huge relief. I've been contacted by quite a few mothers when puberty hits their children, because the children don't have the kind of self-awareness to manage the effects of puberty. It is a difficult time. It's difficult for the child. It's difficult for the parents, and especially for the mothers, who are in most cases the primary caregivers. And to be honest with you, you have to develop a thick skin sometimes. The fact of the matter is that whatever the child is going through is a very natural process of maturation. And so, especially when it came to my close friends or my family, this was like an open discussion with them that, this is the reality. You're going to see things that you may not normally see happening around you, but the fact of the matter is that that's something you just have to accept, because it's part and parcel of having a teen with autism. So I did develop a thick skin. And, I just told myself, so what? It is what it is. Accept it. Move on. I don't really care what other people think. If I have to deal with stares or some disapproving looks, I'll deal with them.